Hey everybody, Hassan Shariq, regulated Canadian immigration consultant, back with another video on Canadian immigration. My prayers and wishes that all of you along with your families are doing really well wherever in the world you are. Today's video is about Educational Credential Assessment for Canadian immigration, commonly known as ACA. So if you are somebody who is considering applying to Canada under one of these categories, do watch the video till the end as we are going to cover a lot of important details. Stay tuned. So first question, what is an ECA? An ECA is, simply putting it, an equivalence of your non-Canadian education into Canadian educational standard. So for those who have their education completed from outside of Canada, an ECA establishes first that your qualification or your education is valid and legitimate. Secondly, it makes a comparison between the educational standard or the level of education achieved outside of Canada with Canadian educational standards. So just giving an example, in many countries of the world, you can have a 2 years bachelor's followed by a 2 years master's. But in Canada, most bachelors are 4 years. Now, somebody in such a country might assume that they should be allocated points for a master's degree holder. But it is only through the outcome of an ECA that it will be ascertained if your education is comparable to a Canadian master's or bachelor's. And once you have this ECA, through this ECA, the Department of Immigration will ascertain as to how many points they are supposed to allocate to you for the factor of education. So, putting it simply, an ECA is an equivalence for your non-Canadian education when compared with the Canadian educational standards. Next up, how to apply for an ECA or where to obtain an ECA from. There's a lot of confusion in this regard as well, because in many parts of the world, there are these regulatory bodies, a lot of time government bodies, which regulate the higher education or the education system in that country, and at times they issue certificates which are called as equivalence certificates. For the purpose of Canadian immigration, you are required to obtain the equivalence or what is known as ECA from designated bodies within Canada. These designated bodies are approved by the Government of Canada through the Department of Immigration. Now, in total there are 7 of these bodies. 5 bodies do general ECAs, and there are 2 profession-specific bodies. So the 5 bodies from where most of the applicants will have their ECA done are: number 1, World Education Services, WES. A lot of people use WES and ECA interchangeably. WES is one of the 5 bodies which can issue you an ECA. WES is one type of ECA, but it's not the ECA in itself. Secondly, IQAS, International Qualification Assessment Services, ICES, International Credential Evaluation Services, ICAS, International Credential Assessment Service. So these are the 5 bodies from where you can have most of your non-Canadian education assessed and have an ECA obtained. Physicians, who are generally called as medical doctors around the world, you need to have your ECA obtained from Medical Council of Canada, MCC, and for pharmacy professionals it is PBEC, the Pharmaceutical Board of Canada, from where you need to have your ECA obtained. After this, we move to the question of how to have the ECA obtained, or what is the process to be followed. There is slight variation based on a few factors, and these factors are: number 1, which assessment body, ECA body you pick; number 2, what qualifications you actually have. As I mentioned, that there are 2 profession-specific ECA bodies. And lastly, where did you complete your education? But the general process, I'll brief you. So first up, you have to pick one of these bodies. So for ease of understanding, we assume that you picked IQAS. You pick IQAS, and you will create an online account on the website of IQAS. And all these bodies that I mentioned, the links are provided in the description of the video. So if you missed out or you would want to get more details, you can look in for their description, for their links in the description of this video. So say for instance you picked IQAS, you go on the website, you create your account, you provide your basic personal information. You will be asked to provide information about yourself, your address, your passport details, details about the qualification that you want to have assessed, like the university name, the date of graduation, all these stuff. And then you're required to upload a copy of your passport and copies or scans of your educational transcripts. And then you proceed with making a fee payment using a credit card. Right now we're having this video made in March 2022. So as of this time, the fee range is between 200 to 240 Canadian dollars for the ECA process. So you make this fee payment, and once you make the fee payment, you are issued an application reference number. Once you have the application reference number, the next step is to have an official copy of your transcript shared with the ECA body directly from the issuing institution. Now this is where slight variation can be. Just for the sake of understanding, we assume that you completed your qualifications in Australia at, say, Macquarie University, the place that I did my master's from. So once you've submitted your application, now you have to request Macquarie University in Sydney to share an official copy of your educational transcript with IQAS. Some ECA bodies and some universities can do this or would provide you an option to have this shared digitally. There are digital platforms called like Digitry and others. In some instances, ECA body can accept an official email directly from, say, the Macquarie University, or in most cases, you have to request the issuing institution to have a copy of your transcript printed, put in a sealed envelope, and couriered to the ECA body. Once this is done, like your online application is done and the official transcript is shared by the institution with the ECA body, it takes about roughly between a month to 4 months for the ECA body to issue your ECA certificate. Now I will talk a little about some of the frequently asked questions. So first up, the validity of this document, ECA. An ECA is valid for 5 years, 5 years from the date of issuance of the ECA certificate, and that's a lot of time. So my suggestion to everybody who is looking at applying for Canadian skilled migration is that you should start off with your ECA process right away, and then you'll have a lot of time to use that for various programs like maybe Express Entry or PNP programs or other regional programs. Secondly, a lot of people ask questions because about the requirement of ECA as to who has to get the ECA done. So if you are a married person and you're looking at applying for Canadian skilled migration, whoever is going to be the main applicant from within the two of you is required to have the ECA done. The spouse is not required, but keep in mind, because most of the Canadian skilled migration streams are point-based, so if your spouse has had their ECA done, that can add some more points into your overall application. More points mean higher ranking, which means higher chances of being invited under a PR stream. But the mandatory requirement is only for the principal or the main applicant. Other than this, a lot of people ask questions as to which body should they go for. Now, this is a very important question. Keep in mind that each of the assessment body, ECA body, has its own framework in terms of how they evaluate credentials from around the world. For a qualification, for similar qualification, you can have different ECA outcomes from different ECA bodies. So it is very important for you to do the research, because you would want to apply to a body which gives you the highest level of qualification so that you have more points. There are certain qualifications for which wherever you apply, like whichever assessment body you apply to, you will have the similar outcome. So in that instance, probably your decision about which body to choose for your ECA should be based on which body is going to issue you the ECA in the quickest manner. And these are the questions, where people have a lot of confusion. For all of you who are in this situation, and if you've still not applied for your ECA, you can post that in the comment section, like provide detail as to what your qualification is, which country did you do it from, what level of education you have, and we can guide you a little on which ECA body to pick. So just in the comment section, post your qualification level, non-Canadian qualification level, the country that you completed it from, and we'll be happy to guide you a little bit on that. Then with the ECA, lastly, to summarize it, keep in mind that an ECA, a lot of times people confuse that an ECA, whatever outcome that you have, it is later on required for your job or that purpose. No, that's not the case. Your ECA is only required for the purpose of immigration, except for the specific professions that I mentioned in the beginning, like for physicians or for pharmacy professions. Otherwise, once you have your ECA done, it's not necessarily a requirement for your jobs in Canada. In fact, for the purpose of jobs, at times you are required to have a different ECA done, which is an ECA, a general ECA, not an ECA for immigration. So to summarize, an ECA is an equivalence of your non-Canadian education. For those who are looking at applying for Canadian immigration, skilled immigration programs, which usually have a point-based system, an ECA as well as an IELTS, or not specifically IELTS, but a language test, an approved language test, are the two basic requirements through which you can have your Express Entry profile created, or other PNP profiles or expression of interest created. So you should start off with the ECA process at the earliest. There are 5 general bodies within Canada which can do your ECAs: VES, IQAS, ICES, ICAS, and IQAS. Links for these are in the description of the video. There are 2 profession-specific bodies, MCC and PBEC. And ECA is valid for 5 years. Right now, the cost of ECA is about 200 to 240 Canadian dollars. The question as to which body to pick depends on your qualification. So you have to do research on that, as well as the fact as to which body will do it the earliest for you, depending on your qualification again. So this is all on the topic of ECA. If there are questions which still stayed unanswered, do feel free to post that in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. With this, I'll ask for a leave. Hopefully, I'll be back with another video on a topic of Canadian immigration very soon. Till that time, take very good care of yourself and your families. Bye-bye and Allah Hafiz.